Welcome to The Nest Show, the podcast that brings you insights into the crypto market, trading and investment experiences, and what we're looking forward to as we navigate this space together. Today, we're joined by Grotegy, otherwise known on Twitter as Proof of Review. Grotegy made his name on Twitter in fundamental analysis, and this is a through line of everything we discuss, from the long-term viability of various altcoin projects to exchange security, and even on to the very secret of maximizing ROI in the blockchain space over time. Spoiler alert, it's not what you think. Grotegy is a sage in the space, and I consider myself lucky to have had the opportunity to share in his wisdom on this episode of The Nest Show. Once again, thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the ride. What The Nest Show is. This is a podcast brought to you by the Birb Nest community, an independent crypto and forex-centered trading community built to sharpen each other in capturing opportunities in the markets while protecting capital along the way. What this is not: trading advice. We are not financial advisors, and you should not regard any information here or in the Nest Club as financial advice. You should always consult a licensed financial advisor before making any financial decisions. Grotegy, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you very much for having me. Really excited for today's podcast.
It's my pleasure. And speaking with you pre-show, there are so many elements that came up that I wasn't even anticipating, and really excited to get underway with this. We didn't discuss this, but where are you located?
So I'm based in London, UK.
And just as a quick aside, kind of before we get into some of the fundamental aspects of the market, in your personal trading style and with your colleagues, do you find that you base movements in the market off of London players?
Yeah, I mean, basically very fortunate being in London time zone. London is like the heart of like the FX kind of trading scene. So basically the idea is, people come to work, they start work at 8 o'clock, they finish at 5 o'clock, and, logic would state that, if the institutions are trading between that time, then you as a retail trader should really follow that. So I always give the premise of like, if your barber's opens at 9 o'clock in the morning and he closes at 5, you're not going to go there at 7 o'clock and wait for him. Well, nothing's happening, right? So very much the same in the trading market. If you're able to trade your timing around specific time zones, it helps a lot because, this is when the activity happens.
Yeah. And there is, so much activity in London and in England. Is there a lot of attention, from that community on Bitcoin as a hedge?
Not really. And I mean, I'll be quite open here. So like, I'm a crypto guy at heart. So this is pretty much where I came from and where I ended up. I don't really know many people who trade the general market. So like most crypto traders, I tend to just, kind of associate with people online. So yeah, I mean, in terms of crypto exposure, pretty much just surrounded by crypto people all day, really.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So Paul Tudor Jones made headlines this week as he said that he's buying Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation that he sees coming from central banks and money printing. It's fascinating the way that grabs headlines. Even though when you dive into it, he's not buying spot Bitcoin, he's gaining exposure to it through futures. Yeah, so Grotegy, I'd love to introduce our listeners more to what you do in the day-to-day with your FA work and any projects that you're excited about in the space. And, we were talking pre-show about some of the trends with various altcoin projects and your experience through a couple of altcoin cycles. So yeah, just wanted kind of to open up the floor and give our listeners a better introduction to the work you do.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I'm full-time crypto. So pretty much this is, what pays the bills. It's what I do for my career. Been doing this since like 2013, pretty much 6 out of 7 years. I only went back to work to get a mortgage for a house. Literally, as soon as that came through, I handed in my notice, left the work within a month, buying the house. Yeah, literally just been crypto ever since again. So set up Proof of Review a couple of years ago. And I think the one thing I've learned being in crypto for so long is, a lot of the money that's made in this industry is made in speculation cycles. And they only tend to last like a 6 to 12 month period, maybe, a bit longer than a year if you're lucky. So yeah, back in 2018, after everything had cooled off, sat down, thought to myself, well, where am I going in my life? One of the things I did before that was review projects internally to kind of look at them for analysis. And yeah, kind of Proof of Review was born as a result of that. Project is mainly around reviewing projects, exchanges, wallets, etc., and kind of just looking at areas where, these things can improve. So yeah, I mean, that's a little bit about me. I guess I live, breathe, and eat crypto 7 days a week, every day of the year, even on holiday. So yeah, pretty much my life, I guess.
Yeah, it's so funny how, with crypto, they say the market never sleeps. It's almost as though crypto prints more hours in the day. Because, if you have your phone in your pocket, then technically the work never leaves you.
Before I got into crypto, I used to be a social worker. So I used to work with families. I used to work with people coming out of prison, all sorts. And, at that time, although I liked my job, I hated it at the same time. So I couldn't wait for the day to pass. As soon as I got into crypto, I literally didn't want to sleep because I just wanted to absorb all the information I could. And it's still pretty much like that 7 years later.
I love it, man. That's how you know you're doing the right thing. In your work with proof of review, tell us a little bit about your team. Like, is it just you, or do you have colleagues that you work with in that?
Yeah, so I have a colleague that I work with. In terms of the team, it's myself and my colleague Nick. For those guys who don't know, Coin Trader Nick on Twitter. He's also got his own analyst blog as well. So we're just working hand in hand to review the projects. Been a friend of Nick for a few years now. And yeah, he's well known in the space, and his outlook is pretty much second to none in terms of his attention to detail.
Well, you touch on a great point there that I feel like is unique to crypto, and that is how much information there is to digest at any given time. Be it with new projects that are emerging or existing projects with new roadmaps or new details to share. And then, of course, you have policy evolution, from market to market, and, hacks and all sorts of components to digest. So for budding fundamental analysts who are trying to find a better way to metabolize all this information, do you have any tips for them as far as, how to go from a macro view and really zero into what matters about a project or about an exchange or hardware, et cetera? Do you have any tips for our listeners who are really looking to refine their fundamental analyst skills?
Most definitely. I mean, I think the first point I always look at is, it doesn't matter what coin you're trading, the exchange is usually the first point where you're trading the coin, whichever one you want to buy or sell. So the first thing anyone should do in this industry before they kind of put money on the exchange is actually check, the reliability of the platform. Is it secure? Who are the people running it? I've been around long enough to know that exchange hacks are probably the most lucrative hack you can do. And not only that, the majority of them are done by the exchange itself. First thing I would say to people, you're putting potentially thousands, tens of thousands, even in some cases, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars onto a platform. I have a checklist what I use for my scoring, but a simple one for the listeners out there. If you go on an exchange and you look at their about page and there's no team on there, no company, do not send your money to that platform. How can you trust a company that doesn't even, be transparent about who they are? Second thing, if you then register and the platform's not secure, e.g. there's no two-factor, they're not making you do it mandatory, don't use the platform. Your funds are the most important thing in crypto, and don't put them at risk based on speculating on, a coin going up if the platform you're using is not secure or safe in itself.
Shout out to my boy Lannister. He got me onto XRB when it was either pennies or fractions of pennies. That was my first 50x. I can't remember if it went between 50 or 100x, but I was trading it on Mercatox. And for the longest time, Mercatox had basically some bullshit notice that, oh, your XRB is not available for withdrawal, or, basically you could wash it around the exchange, but you couldn't pull it off. And then they had delays on other withdrawals as well, where, basically, I was speculating along with other traders, being like, hey, is Mercatox just, wash trading XRB and, using my funds to subsidize their own speculation with this tool, while I'm just basically, bleeding out value because I was, looking to sell at, what I thought was the top and what ended up being pretty much the top, somewhere around $30. And they hamstrung me with some questionable at best practices that kind of left me cashing out for much less than I would have otherwise. I have to say that I'm almost a little sheepish to share that because I can't speak to what actually happened with Mercatox.
That's exactly what happened. I guarantee you. I mean, I've been around in crypto long enough to know that's exactly what happened. I mean, bear in mind, this exchange makes more money off a speculation-based coin going up that they can sell themselves than they would make in fees on the trading. So, just a reminder for any listener out there, the exchange is not your friend. It never will be. Its only sole purpose is to make money off you. Now, one point I want to touch on with this that's probably really important and the way I explain it is, we practice and preach about risk management all the time. Don't risk more than 1%. In effect, majority of people risk 100% of their funds on an exchange. No matter how much risk management you put into your trading, if you're not putting risk management into the exchange you're using, you're basically putting 100% of your funds at risk at any one time by holding them on there.
That's so true. And Gordaji, I'd love to follow that up with the question that I know listeners are screaming in their heads right now is that you have a great grasp on security and how to size up an exchange. So out of London, what exchange gets the most of your volume?
If I'm honest with you, I mean, I don't think there's anything kind of really established in the UK that kind of compares to its rivals globally, especially in terms of a spot or a fiat value. The only one that I know of in the UK is CoinFlow, and again, in terms of liquidity globally, it doesn't really compare, which is a surprise, really. I mean, in terms of innovation and regulation, London is pretty much a prime hub for both of these things, especially in the fintech sector. So yeah, I mean, I'll be open. I don't think there's really. I mean, if anyone out there is listening, where are you guys? Make something, make it quick. There's a lot of money to be made. I mean, another thing I want to talk about with exchanges is a lot of people will do reviews or promote exchanges, and their only sole aim of doing that is to ensure that you sign up under their referral link. So, I mean, I'm not going to mention the individual in question, but there was a recent incident on crypto Twitter that played out where, a well-known crypto Twitter individual was working with an exchange. Things turned out sour. He was no longer an employee of the exchange and then started to badmouth them and talk rubbish about them. Now, that's all well and good from his point of view because he's looking to get paid and he's causing a drama. But what about all the people that he kind of promoted to use that exchange that have put their Bitcoin on there that he's now claiming is a scam exchange because they won't pay him? So this is the thing that people should really listen to when I'm talking about this. Do your own due diligence on an exchange. Don't listen to what people are saying in terms of, use this and use my link. Well, what's the guy telling you why to use your link? Is he telling you because he's used the exchange and he's got this experience from it? Or is he just putting a link on there and saying, sign up now? Again, people just want to be careful out there. I mean, underlying thing with this, what is your end goal in crypto? Obviously, for everyone out there is to make money, right? The most traditional way of doing
I'm in it for the tech.
Right, they say that. I mean, no one gives a shit about the tech. Come on, man. I mean, anyone who says that, just don't be friends with the guy because he's not truthful. It's like, when they say you might not like someone, but you respect them if they tell you the truth. And I'm a strong believer in that. If someone sits here and says to me, I want to make as much money in crypto as I can for the next couple of years, or, pay for my family's education, pay for my kids, school, buy a house, I'll respect that guy. Someone sits here and says, I like the tech and I think it's going to change the world. I'm like, you're chatting shit, mate. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, we're getting off topic here. I'll probably go into a 10-minute rant based on that. So yeah, I mean, in terms of like what I was saying in terms of doing your due diligence, we focus mainly on exchanges solely because it's the central point where people kind of invest their funds. We also do project reviews as well, but I think that's probably the next topic that I'd like to talk about on this podcast is, the future of altcoin projects and, your role in investing in them and how you can benefit from them, for your benefit, not for anyone else's.
Well, let's dive right into that because as we were talking pre-show, the market is developing so rapidly, and projects that seemed like a good idea at the time from a year or more ago, and many have gone to the wayside.
I mean, when you say gone to the wayside, it just makes me think like, so I'm going to put it like this, probably the best way I can describe it, right? Bitcoin is the market leader in this industry, right? It's the most established, the most adopted, and, the most widely known and probably regulated at some point as well. It's talked about in Congress, the Federal Reserve, federal banks are all aware of it. In terms of Bitcoin, let's say Andreas Antonopoulos, and apologies if I've said his name wrong, was a core developer on Bitcoin. Anyone out there listening, remembering when he asked for money in 2017 because he didn't make anything off Bitcoin or he didn't have any coins? So this is a guy who's worked on the project. He's responsible for the development of where you see it is today, but he wasn't paid for it as a result. And this is the underlying thing with one element of coins. If they are not making money and they don't have money to develop and pay its developers, at some point they will just go by the wayside, like you said. There's no incentive for them to continue. Now, so I've been through a cycle where I've seen that happen time and time again. And then we came to this new cycle of ICOs, especially in 2017, where that model was flipped around and projects were paid up front by, speculation-based investors who were hoping that, they paid the project, they developed the product that they're talking about, and at the end, everyone makes money and it's a win-win. Now, we look back 3 years from that cycle. How many projects have actually come out of that, the other side, and, made money? Just even today, Deep Brain Chain literally took the piss out of his investors and said, fuck you guys, we've got off, we've spent your money. And that is the underlying story with 99.9999% of projects in this space. They are not going to do anything for you. You are speculating on the price going up. And I'm going to say it like this, guys. Everyone out here sits and talks about 10x, 100x, 50x. The only way that a coin gets to that price is if there's a willing buyer on the other end who's going to willingly buy it off you at 10x the price of what he sees at the bottom of the chart or where you may have bought it from. Now, listen, guys, that gig is up. No one out there who's listening is going to buy a coin 10 times what its price was. Are they? Because they know it's got no further to go. There's speculation that they're going to find another guy to dump it on higher than what they bought it for. So what I'm trying to say here in a nutshell is, as great as the technology is in these projects, they're not going to go anywhere and they're not going to make you rich. It's all speculation that if you invest in it, you can dump it on someone else. Now, I want to tag this into another thing that seems to be the underlying thing that annoys me a lot in crypto, is this issue of morality. And it fucking seems to be like the morality police in crypto around the corner everywhere. And I want to put it like this. If you have a moral issue with someone selling their time in work or as an employee or building a business and charging a service in crypto, and you say that's a scam, but you're comfortable sitting there and buying coins and hoping to dump it on someone 10 times what you paid for it when you know it's worthless and has no use whatsoever, who's the biggest scammer out here? The guy who sold you, something that's got at least value, he sold you his time and his expertise, or some guy who sold you a dream on vaporware with a coin that's backed by it and you sold it to someone, a random guy on the internet, and laughed about it with your friends after that some idiot bought it. I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant here, but I just want to say one last thing on this. I will never forget in the summer of 2014, there was a coin I had called Parkbyte, and luckily enough, I kind of sold it more than what I paid for it. But I remember there was a guy who tweeted, and listen to this, guys. He said, I've just bought 85 Bitcoins worth of Parkbyte. If anyone's listening out there, please Google Parkbyte. Please go on CoinMarketCap and tell me what that's worth now. Nothing.
Yeah, you can read it on that guy's tombstone.
Right, pretty much. I mean, please, come on. I mean, how many out there listening would kill for 85 Bitcoin right now? It's life-changing for anyone out there unless you're a multimillionaire already. What's 85 Bitcoin right now at 9K? My maths is a bit off, $600,000. You know, that could pay off anyone's mortgage. And this guy put it into Parkbite on the basis of it was going to go up higher. And, you know, basically he got dumped on and he couldn't find anyone else to dump on higher. One last point on this. You are basically gambling on a stranger to build a project and pay you. Now, in what sense of any imagination does anyone out there think that that's going to work in life?
Yeah, I think that at any stage of the game, it's important to, you know, keep in mind the psychology at play with any speculative market, which cryptocurrency very much is. And that's, you know, it extends to what a friend told me about people in your life. Friends come and go. There's friends for a reason, friends for a season, and friends for a lifetime. I feel like Bitcoin is the obvious friends for a lifetime, if ever there was a lifetime long friend in crypto. The friends for a reason are maybe those very few altcoin projects that, you know, will weather the storm and whose use case is so undeniable and so, you know, so enriching to the bottom line of various enterprises and users who come across it that it will be woven into the fabric of next level commerce as we know it. So maybe something like Chainlink or various dApps built on Ethereum or Ethereum itself, whatever. And then you have friends for a season, which are so many of the speculative projects where people have just come in and the real dangerous part of the, you know, friends for a season speculation category is that many of them may not even know what their true motives are. You know, they may say, oh, well, you know, we can do whatever on the blockchain, yada, yada. And they see the excitement in the marketplace and they see that they can get money from investors or maybe people in their network are saying, hey, you should build this. You have the expertise. You have the know-how. Here's a wad of cash. And they might not even be aware that their pupils have dilated and that they're full on drunk on the possibility of making overnight cash. They sell it so well that they believe their own lie. Maybe in their subconscious, they know that project won't be worth a barrel of rotten fish in 6 months.
What you talked about being the seasonal thing is the best way you can put it. So, you know, there will be a season every 3 or 4 years in this industry where altcoins pop off, right? And you can buy anything, you can close your eyes, throw it at a dartboard or CoinMarketCap, pick anything, buy it, and it will go up in price. In between those 3 or 4 years, there's usually a quiet period, you know, and a down period. And it's usually coincides with a bear market for the market leader, which then coincides for everything else. Now, what I suggest to people is stick around as long as you can and get yourself in that season. But once that season comes along, pay yourself enough that you can now enjoy the next few years of a quiet period after that and not have any stress about the price of Bitcoin. The most successful guy I know in this industry is not on Twitter anymore. And what he did in 2017, you know, he kind of sold up his crypto, he went traveling with his girlfriend for a year or two, got married, and he's now come back. So yeah, I mean, you know, this guy, he's enjoyed his life, he's taking the money, and he's had no stress of this, you know, 2 years in between of looking at charts and trying to speculate on the same basis. So, you know, if I'm giving advice to anyone out there who's in crypto and wants to do well, enjoy the money while you make it and take the time off. This market isn't going anywhere.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, it's so funny. You just mentioned the time. It feels like we've been talking for 5 minutes, but we're well into it. So before we kind of wrap up with the final thoughts, I wanted to revisit something we had spoken about in pre-show, and that's privacy coins. Just to reiterate it for listeners, what is your take on privacy coins and kind of the utility for them moving forward in the current state of the market and of kind of how the public views privacy coins?
Yeah, I mean, so a couple of issues I have with privacy coins. Now, there's definitely a market needed for them. You know, the black market in the global economy exists. It will never go anywhere, and it's a necessary evil. Now, often people associate, you know, the black market with illegal money, you know, through drugs, whatever. but the majority of it actually tends to be laundered money through, organized business, and, big corporations who don't want to pay tax, even politicians, I don't know if anyone remembers the Panama Papers scandal a couple of years ago. Politicians from every country were implicated.
Yeah, there are a lot of politicians who'd like to get you to forget.
Exactly. Now, people tend to forget, but, now with the benefit of the internet, it's online forever. So, there is a use for it. Now, I have a couple of issues with privacy coins. And I guess the first thing is with blockchain technology, one of the difficult things that I've learned with it, because this is an emerging technology, it's very kind of like hit and miss. So when we talk about being anonymous, there's certain levels to anonymity that I don't understand online. I won't, because I'm not a tech guy. But I believe the top coin, or in some eyes, top coin Monero, or one of the top coins, let's say, to save anyone kicking off or frothing at the mouth, is maybe a Dash fanboy or something else. I mean, the basic underlying premise of Monero's algorithm, nobody knows how many coins exist. So the original one for that was ByteNote, or something like that. I can't remember that far back, the name. But basically it got exploited, and no one really knows how many coins are out there. Potentially there's more coins than the blockchain actually says is a limit. So with privacy coins, you'll always have that as an issue. If it's super private, you won't actually be able to trace how many coins exist on the blockchain. And, if there's a store of value associated with that, then, there's more coins than what it says out there. Then it's, in effect, inflation that's hidden that you don't know about. So there's a risk of that. And then the second risk I always think is anything to do where the government can't see what's going on with finances has a risk of regulation. So when I say that, cash right now is the king of, dirty money laundering, whatever you want to call it. Eventually people agree that cash will probably be outlawed because of, the government can't track all of it. But the underlying thing I will say is try to move more than $10,000 or 10,000 of your native currency in your country and see what happens. Somebody is asking a question. You leave the country, they're going to ask you. You come into a country with that, they're going to ask you. You put it into a bank, they're going to ask you. So what I'm trying to say is the government will always put even though they can't ban it, they will always put some sort of filter in place where they will want to find out what you're doing with your money.
I tend to agree with you on all these points, and just wanted to, issue the counterpoint for the sake of conversation for a coin that a couple of coins that I'm keen on in the privacy space. There's Beam and Darrow, both of which do have a capped issuance. I can't remember off the top of my head what either of them are, but you don't run into the same inflated risk of inflation that you do for Monero. So there are coins that I am keen on in the privacy space that if listeners are following my publications or the Bulletin series that the Nest Club releases, as Beam and Darrow. And, for a coin, let's say like Beam, there's the use case outside of money laundering and illicit activities, and that's for privacy use in enterprise, where a company is, perhaps looking to obfuscate financial flows from their competitors so that their competitors won't be wise to, various purchase orders that might be coming from their vendors, or, to get the jump on the release of quarterly earnings or other proprietary financial flows that they might be engaged in. Once I became aware of some of the compliance measures that Beam was engaged in as well, it kind of opened up a new perspective to me on, the notion of privacy use case, outside of illegal terms, and same goes for instance, Darrow with smart contracts, where they're seeking, I don't know if it's along the same rigor as Beam has sought with compliance, but they are positioning themselves to be fully compliant in the markets that they operate in for enterprise use case, but where they have fully encrypted smart contracts that enable for business to be executed again without revealing that, internal, proprietary information for commerce, where they could, keep obfuscated the terms that a smart contract could be executed on, whereas currently that's not available on Ethereum. And those are just some of the, the valid use cases of privacy for enterprise, not, for money laundering or for keeping money from the, prying eyes of, tax reporting.
I mean, I'm glad you mentioned enterprise and blockchain together. So, I mean, my personal point of view, like, kind of what I wanted to talk about on this podcast, or one thing I wanted to talk about was the value of building enterprise in this industry and bringing the existing skills you have from the real world and applying them here. Sorry to go off on a tangent here, but like the majority of people who come into crypto, they're always led down this path of trading is the only way you can make money in this industry. And, it's kind of sold to them as a dream, so to speak. So, let's say someone who's out there who's an English graduate, who's a writer, a freelancer, why is he going to come into this industry and expect to learn to trade and make money off it? It's going to take him a few years, right? I mean, why not come here and be a content creator or a writer? So, one of the other projects I'm working on right now is a podcast, and it's called Blockchain Enterprises. And the basic idea is to talk about people's experiences of working in this space, but also setting up their own business as well. So I know I was mentioning before, like the cycles in this industry, and there's one good year every 3 or 4 years, and the 2-3 years in between, either you go on holiday, enjoy yourself, or you do something that, kind of aside from looking at charts. One of the things I'm really kind of keen to stress in this industry and promote is the rewards of working in the blockchain industry. The salaries in this industry are incredible. I mean, coming back to what I was talking about before about my previous experience, I used to be a social worker. And as a content creator in crypto, I can earn more than what I ever did as a professional social worker working in the UK. I mean, it's a good job. I got paid well, but compared to what I can make in crypto, peanuts. So that's one thing I would stress to people. The other thing I would stress is people are investing potentially hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in Bitcoin into projects like altcoins, and they hope that the price will go up. Crypto is one of the few industries in this world right now where you can start a business for a few $100s and you can start making revenue in this industry straight away and be paid in crypto. But what I'm trying to stress here is, why would you sit around and invest money into someone's project, a blockchain-based project that you hope will go up on speculation because it does this and it's got all these shiny bells and whistles? Why not invest that money into yourself, either with your time and work, or, set up a business and sell a service, a product? I mean, we interview all sorts of guys. I interview a guy who sells Bitcoin-based socks. I've interviewed someone who, I interviewed Ben, the CEO of Bybit, recently. So we basically interview anyone and anyone in between, like from whatever you're selling or building in this industry or wherever you're working. I'm going to say this, guys, for anyone who's listening out there and thinks that trading is the be-all and the most macho thing in this industry, why would you not get paid and work in this industry and trade at the same time? The other thing I'm going to say, 99% of you guys out there who are trading, you'll not make money in the long term in this industry aside from a bull market. So maybe 99 is a high figure. Let's say 90% won't make it. You wouldn't make it consistently enough to make a living to replace the job you were doing in the life before. Why would you waste your time doing that when you can do other things and get paid for it? Maybe an example I can use is, maybe you guys call it soccer over there, we call it football. Football for our listeners. Everyone likes to play football, right? Likes to watch it. But out of everyone who plays, how many make it to a level where they get paid professionally and they make a good living out of it? Maybe 0.1%, maybe less. Trading is very much the same. So, if you're not good enough to play football, are you going to keep trying to play until your 20s, 30s and 40s knowing you're not going to make it? Or are you going to get a job, get paid in something else you do, and just enjoy football and still get involved in it for your passion, and potentially, make money off it? Well, not make money off it because sports is different, but, in terms of Bitcoin, I've started a challenge on my Twitter recently for our podcast channel to show. So like with the start of this lockdown, anyone who knows me personally and Grow Digi, you know, I eat out a lot, post a lot of food pictures when I'm eating out. I estimate, you know, being out in London, I spend about £20 a day, maybe about $25 in conversion, just on food. And I don't even eat a lot. That'll be a coffee in the morning, hot chocolate I drink, hot chocolate and a cake, you know, bus fare, lunch in the afternoon, and maybe some stuff from the shop on the way home. So since this lockdown, I said to myself, right, I can save £20 a day, and why don't I just invest that into Bitcoin over the so many months and see how much I end up with? I guarantee you, for most people out there, doing a strategy like that will outperform anything that you do by investing and trying to trade it on a leverage exchange and trying to make more Bitcoin.
And you bring up some great points there, and chief among them is the fact that regardless of what we're doing in our day job, we're trading. You know, we're trading time and energy and skills, either for US dollar, for euro, for pound, for, if you're already keen on it, Bitcoin. So if you're already long on Bitcoin and looking to, speculate in other instruments to get more Bitcoin, or if you're long on Bitcoin and long on other, speculative instruments, then, you may as well, find a way to, get compensated for that directly so that you don't have to bother with exchange fees, yeah. And you're already betting on yourself,
True. I mean, the other way you can look at it is, I remember when Bitmex was first formed, and I remember Arthur came into a trading group I used to be into. And he came in and he was like, "Hey guys, we've just launched our platform here. Check it out. If anyone wants to trade here, let me know." And he also said, I'll never forget this because I look back on it now. He also said, "We're looking for people to join the team. If you want to send over your CV, we'll have a look." Now, I want to put this into context, guys, so people grasp how big Bitmex is. Remember, I was having a conversation with my wife the other day, and I was like, look, I remember when this company came out. Annually, Bitmex turns over, just on Bitcoin, around about $2.4 trillion in revenue.
Unreal.
Listen to this, $2.4 trillion. Now, if you imagine how much their fees are, I wouldn't want to say this out loud. I mean, I'm going there. I estimate they probably make about 40 to 50 billion a year, probably more. And that's not including the value of their insurance fund, which is one of the biggest mining machines out there. It's bigger than actual mining farms. And also the value of their company. So what I'm trying to say to you guys out there, this is a company that started just over 5 years ago. Can you imagine, even if you're not the founder, right? Can you imagine getting a job in that position in the first couple of months on its launch and then working there for 5 years? Imagine if you had 1% equity of Bitmex as an employee and that grew over. Imagine you got 1% a year for every year you'd worked there and you now had 5%.
So basically, you're asking me, what have I been doing with my life? Nothing.
Look, the crypto is one of the few industries where a new platform comes up, a new company launches, and you can literally get in there from very early on. You can get paid in crypto. You can be a part of the growth. And, 5 years on. I mean, I'm talking companies I could reel off my hand here that I've seen grow. Bitmex, OKX, NiceHash, TradingView. Okay, TradingView isn't a crypto company, but TradingView only got so big. Now, bear in mind, TradingView is in the top 200 most visited websites in the world. They only became so big because of crypto traders, and I remember that transition very well in early 2015.
Man, I had no idea they were one of the top 200 most visited sites in the world. That's incredible.
Incredible, right? And I mean, that is because of crypto. Now, I'm not saying all the guys who come on there and use it are crypto guys, but that company only pivoted its growth when crypto traders adopted their platform, because nothing like that existed for us out there before. So again, for anyone listening out there, there is a million niches you can use from the real world and bring into crypto. You can launch your company for $1,000, your time, and boom, you're ready to go. And I mean, I can't stress it much more than this. You spend thousands in coins speculating on them. spend the money on yourself.
Well, listen, Gordaji, you've been incredibly generous with your time and your energy and expertise with our listeners and with myself today. Are there any closing notes or final thoughts that you'd like to leave our listeners ruminating on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one thing I want to say to people is don't look at what everyone else is doing in their life and kind of compare it to you. The biggest mistake that people make in this industry is they look at an anonymous figure on Twitter, they assume he's rich, and they then compare their life to his and their growth in this industry compared to theirs. They don't know what they've gone through. People can sit here and listen to me talk and think, oh, this guy's been in crypto 7 years, he must be super rich. No, I'm not. You know, I'm a regular guy, I'm a married man, my wife works, you know, we live a normal life, etc. So I'm not a rich guy, and you don't need to think of other people, so you need to concentrate on yourself. You know, an hour spent on Twitter a day is an hour taken away from what you could be doing in your life. Who cares what everyone else is doing? I mean, literally, who cares? You know, focus on yourself and you'll feel so much better for it. In fact, we talked about this just before we came on air. Maybe the best advice I can give to anyone listening, make a list of your goals, what you want in your life, and especially what you want out of crypto. Then take all the social media off your phone for a month, the Discord, the Telegram, the Twitter, and just focus on your goals every day. And every day write down 10 minutes of what you've done to achieve your goals and what you need to do. At the end of the month, I guarantee you will feel in a lot better place than where you are now when you're looking at other people and seeing what they're doing.
Gordaji, I've been quiet for most of this episode, mainly because I have had nothing to add with what you've stated so plainly and concisely. My final notes are just to echo yours. You said it so great, man. And yeah, I've got nothing to add on to that.
True. I mean, if anyone wants any advice on how to get started building a business, how to get work in this industry, you can hit up my website. I'm sure it'll be in the show notes. You can always hit me up on Twitter if you want any personal advice. You know, so feel free to hit me up, guys, if you want to go down that road.
And you're right, Gordaji, they will be in the show notes, but just for our listeners on the podcast or those just listening audibly who are looking to jot it into their mobile phone as you're speaking, what's your Twitter handle and what's the website address that you'd like for listeners to reach you at?
My personal Twitter handle is @GrowDigi. You'll find just kind of general ramblings on there. So that's my personal account. And then Proof of Review. So that's for all your project-based needs, all your exchange reviews. That's proofofreview.com. Twitter handle is @ProofOfReview. Blockchain Enterprises, if anyone's interested in looking for work in crypto, knowing where to start or knowing how to build a business, listening to the stories of others, you can hit up our website on www.blockchainenterprisespodcast.com, or you can hit up our Twitter at BE_podcast.
Gordaji, you've been a tremendous guest, man, and I can't wait to have you on again. Thank you so much for joining us, man. It's been a pleasure. I'd like to thank our listeners for joining this episode of The Nest Show. We invite you to connect with our guest on Twitter, where I can be reached at BenjaminT1717, and Gordaji can be reached at Gordaji, which is GRODIGI, where you can also find his @Proof of Review handle. And while you're at it, make sure you visit proofofreview.com. If you've appreciated the depth and breadth of what you've heard with us today, subscribe to our podcast and find our landing page at thebirbnest.com. We have a vibrant Discord community which acts as our central hub of operations, and we welcome you to join us at thebirbnest.com/discord. We also offer an extensive free bulletin on emerging crypto market trends, exclusive undervalued gem reports, and in-depth expert technical and fundamental analysis at thebirbnest.com/bulletin. We always appreciate engagement from our community, which of course means liking the video and subscribing to our page, where we insist on bringing you the highest quality content available. Also, we're happy to incorporate tips and topics from our listeners and encourage you to email us at thenestshow@thebirbnest.com. This podcast is brought to you by the Birb Nest. Thank you, and trade on.